Hi everybody. Hi Noga. So we're continuing our series of videos breaking down the characters from A Song of Ice and Fire, Game of Thrones through a psychoanalytical perspective. That's your thing, that's what you do. Our first video was about Daenerys. Today we want to talk about Arya Stark. So as you proposed last time, let's start with her very first trauma. I'm guessing that's when she sees her father die in front of her eyes. That can be very traumatic, to say the least.
You're right, but I think in Arya's case, there was something much before that. I mean, actually, the beginning of her life up until that point also contained many forms of trauma.
For example?
She experienced some kind of a traumatic encounter with a reality that wouldn't allow her, a reality like in the social order, and the people that represented it, that wouldn't allow her to be the kind of person that she is, and tried to make her very genderly conformed.
The world, represented through her dad, told her, no, you have to be a lady.
Whose sword is that?
Mine.
Give it to me. This is no toy. Little lady shouldn't play with swords.
I wasn't playing. And I don't want to be a lady.
We can see that Ned tells her that as opposed to her brothers, which will serve, in the king's court after Sansa and Joffrey are married.
Can I be Lord of the Holdfast?
You will marry a High Lord and rule this castle. And your sons shall be knights and princes and lords.
No.
Utopic picture, the pretty picture that you think that you're painting in front of my eyes, it's not something that I would consider.
Okay, so let's say that this was part of my life experience, just as an example. So if I felt that I was oppressed part of my life, that I couldn't be who I was, what would you tell me to make me feel better? Just as an example.
Well, I would first of all talk about how it made you feel up until now. I mean, even the things that you wouldn't, admit to yourself. Like the fact that you learned early on that you have to hide certain parts of yourself if you want to be loved. I mean, in a sense, if people see who you really are, you will be rejected, you will be left alone. So that's very painful to learn at a very early age, that you're not accepted to who you are.
Right, we're talking about Arya.
Yes, we're talking about Arya, of course, about Arya. Yeah, so we can see that Ned heard her in a way, like he recognized that need, but even though he couldn't let her do it in real life as a grown-up woman, he did some kind of compromises that were between them.
Right, she learned how to fence.
Yeah, but it wasn't really called fencing, it was called water dancing. I mean, she was dancing, she's taking dancing lessons. Exactly, It's feminine, it's okay, it's accepted.
It's safe.
It's safe, right.
You are late, boy.
Who are you?
Your dancing master, Syrio Forel. That is not the way, boy. It is not a great sword that is needing two hands to swing it. He knows these things. You must listen to me, boy.
I'm a girl.
Boy, girl, you are a sword.
And also with needle. I mean, when we first see her, she's trying to learn needlework. Like Sansa is really good at it. She's like the lady, and and Arya is really bad at it. She wants to, shoot arrows with her brothers in the court.
So, but she gets a sword.
She gets a sword, and the sword is named Needle. So that's also like the compromise that they made. It's a sword, but it's a needle. So
the compromise in itself highlights the problem that she feels inadequate in the world, and this is part of her and her sister's butting of heads all the time. Okay, so let's go to the second trauma. Her dad dies in front of her eyes.
Yeah. She doesn't see it, but she knows it's happening.
Her dad is like this archetypical father, knows all, knows justice, teaches values, how the world is, how we should be and act in the world. And then that person has to tell everyone that he's a traitor and a liar, and then his head is chopped off.
Right.
What kind of trauma is that? What does that mean?
Well, first of all, it's the trauma of understanding that your father is not superhuman, that he's invincible. He's not the ultimate, the one who will always protect you, indefinite protector.
Right. And she tells Tywin later, anyone can be killed. So the world crumbled. So if her dad can be killed, then everyone can be killed. Then what? Then it's chaos.
Realizing that your father is not invincible is something that is very difficult for a kid who depends on their father for protection, for ultimate protection. And the fact that he can be beaten, so it means that they can protect them.
Right. She's now alone in the world by herself. What kind of world is this?
It's a world without laws. It's an unlawful world.
What does that mean?
I mean, when she grew up in Winterfell, her father was very, he was an honorable man. Everything had a price. Everything had a reason, exactly. And suddenly she goes out to the world and she sees that her father, who she knows is not a traitor, he says he's a traitor, and his head is
right. And he did everything right.
And he did everything right, exactly. I mean, he did nothing wrong, and still. So it's an unlawful world, and in that world, I mean, it's really, anything can happen.
We as show watchers or book readers, we go through this experience through her eyes. We say, okay, if this valiant and honorable knight has been killed this way, then anything can happen. In the story.
Exactly.
It's, we feel the sense of angst. It can come from everywhere. You have to be prepared. So a kid that grows up this way, in a world without laws, with no one to protect her, what kind of person is created from those experiences?
First of all, someone who is self-reliant, who doesn't trust anyone, who moves around in the world, with suspicion. If the rules don't apply to anyone, then they don't apply to me either. I can do whatever I want in this world. I can do whatever I need to do. There's this kind of belief you need to do it because no one else will do it for you. If you want to survive, then you have to do it for yourself.
Right.
So.
You don't have to be honorable or just because...
Why? Exactly. There's no reward in that. I mean, quite...
The opposite.
The opposite, yeah. Arya becomes very utilitarian in the sense that, she does whatever she wants to do because she needs it, She takes whatever she can get.
Right.
Everything is according to her, the world according to Arya.
Right. So she goes to Bravos, she goes to the House of Black and White. They have all this philosophy and all this thing behind it, but she just wants to learn how to kill.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. She came to look for Jaqen Hagar because he told her that's where he's staying, and she wanted to learn his craft. She was very impressed by his assassinating everyone there in the kingdom, so she wanted to know how to do that. So she came there because of that. She didn't know anything. She didn't come to serve.
Right, and even at first, the way that she got him to kill people for her was by being irreverent to the values of rules, telling him, okay, so I choose your name, so now you will have to kill yourself. So then blackmailing him, and he was like, no, this is not the way you play the game. This is against the rules. But she's like...
This would require more than one life. This is not part of our bargain.
Fine. Jaqen Hagar.
A girl lacks honor.
Okay, I don't care. I don't care. So she's very cynical, and also death has been creeping into her life for all this time.
And Micah's death was really unjust because both Joffrey and Sansa lied, and then Nymeria was cast away. I mean, all kinds of shitty things happened there. I mean, it's really not fair.
You're a liar, and if you told the truth, Micah would be alive.
Enough!
What's happening here?
Arya would rather act like a beast than a lady.
Right, she was telling the truth, but it didn't matter.
It didn't matter, so why tell it? Why bother at all,
Right.
It doesn't do you any good. Arya, she goes on in the world, right, alone, basically. And the things that's motivating her is her, pursuit of justice, but it's her own justice. And, revenge.
Right.
She's basically driven by her will to avenge her father's death and basically everyone.
She has a list.
I hate them. I hate all of them. The Hound, the Queen and the King, and Joffrey and Sansa.
And the only thing in common with all these people is that she feels that they have wronged her.
Right.
It's not something political or
No.
ideological. And if the world is not going to do anything about it, then I will do something about it.
Yeah, she has the complexity of a kid, right? I mean, even in that sense, like Elaine Payne, you know, he was just a messenger. I mean, he was the one that
Right.
he was the executionist.
Right.
He wasn't
He's the electric chair operator.
exactly. So why kill him specifically? I mean,
Right, because he's on her list.
yeah, he's on her list because he's, you know, he belongs to them. So, but it's a kid's eyes, you know. It's one who doesn't understand how the mechanism work, how things work.
Yeah, she doesn't care.
And yeah, it's very concrete, you know. I'm just,
Right.
he's the one who does it. So I'll.
Right. And she has something of a girl soldier, you know, like boy soldiers in all kinds of wars, like, and she's even given like sort of drugs from by the House of Black and White.
Yeah.
She learns all this craft, and they point her. Okay, you see that actress? Go kill her. Boom. That's it. No values behind it. No nothing. So
Right.
that's a very harsh way to grow up. That's a very harsh way to grow up.
She wants to be the one who decides, you know, who deserves to die and who doesn't. In that sense, she knows that she's not the only one who decides. But if she kills someone, then it's, you know, on her own terms.
Right. Right.
This kind of chaos was also a ladder. I mean, that's why, in a way, she benefited from it, because it allowed her to transcend gender in a way that she wouldn't have been able to do.
Right. And she wanted to.
And she wanted to, right? She's what we now call, I mean, in our world today, the cisgender.
Cisgender.
She's not cisgender. She's not comfortable in skin.
Comfortable in skin. Okay.
Yeah, as a woman also.
Right.
We don't know it's because she wants to be transgender, or maybe it's
Yeah.
because society is
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
I mean,
Maybe
today,
if she had an outlet.
Exactly. If she had an outlet, I mean, if it was more accepted, it would have been fine. But you know, she could have had maybe a worse fate, to her.
Right. Being a lady.
Being a lady, yeah, being married with kids in some
Right.
castle.
Right.
So,
Interesting. That's interesting.
Yeah, so in a way it worked out.
Yay! So my
interesting.
father died for everybody,
Yeah,
my
but,
mom and my brother.
Yeah.
But
So we can see that she transcends gender in the sense that she was also a boy. She pretended to be a boy.
Right.
And she became a faceless man, not a faceless
Okay.
woman. So
right. Okay. So if you take all that and you had a session with Arya, what would you tell her in order to make her deal with all these traumas in a better and healthier way?
in Arya, we can see that the dominant situation that she's in is what is called the schizoparanoid position. It's a term first coined by Melanie Klein, who's a psychoanalyst in London in the beginning of the 20th century. The schizoparanoid position is basically the easy separation that we make between good and bad, good and evil even, us and them. It's basically the kind of split that one does, leaving all the good inside and all the bad outside.
So I am good and everybody else is evil and wrong.
Wrong, and they're also trying to do things to me, like if I'm standing in line somewhere, then everyone, especially in Israel, you get really alert and really aggressive because you feel that anyone is going to try to cut you off, and you're convinced that they're plotting to do so. I mean, it's not just that right? I mean, they're really planning it. They're thinking about it. You can see it in their minds. Yes, they are. Actually, in Israel, they are. But so we can see that the mechanisms that work in that kind of position is also devaluation of the other, of the one.
Okay. Right, he's awful.
He's awful, and I'm good. I'm like all good. That's an idealization, and everyone who is associated with me, whoever I choose, is with me, is also good. For example, we can see with Arya the relationship that she has with that actress.
She seemed like a fine woman.
She seemed like a fine woman, but then at one point she tells us that she used to cut, her boyfriends, and she cut off that actress's face.
So that's how she knows how to sew her or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. So we can see that she's not really this kind of perfect person. I mean, maybe
she's a bit crazy. Maybe
she's a bit crazy.
Right, but Arya doesn't see that.
Arya doesn't see it. She idealizes her. I mean, she's like the bountiful breast. Serving her with the goodness. She's like the savior, the protector.
Right. She heals her.
She heals her. Yeah, and she talks to her, and she's like the mother that she misses, and
then she's dead.
And then she's dead. So in the Dem group, everyone is equally evil and equally, morally deprived. And in our group, everyone is equally. I mean, we're all good. I mean, even if we have glitches here and there. It doesn't matter. We're good at heart. We're
Right.
good. So this is the kind of mechanism that at work. Also, we can see it, of course, in society, right? I mean, in groups within society.
Right. Yeah. We are fine. They
Yeah.
are horrible. And only
Yeah.
when you look about other societies and other countries that have, say, race or ethnic tensions, then you just say, why can't you just get along?
Yeah,
Because-
right. Why can't you see that they're not all the same? If someone does something, it doesn't mean that they all want to do it.
Right, but our others, they're really horrible.
Yeah.
Our others are
Yeah.
like wherever you go to Slovakia, you go to Russia, Indonesia, some like the us will say something about them, and it's always the same things that go over and over again. They take our jobs, they take our women, they bring disease, they're violent, they're
Right.
immoral. It's always the same.
But you can also see it in relationships even. I mean, you can see it, yeah, like in, the discussions between partners in a relationship. We often all get into the schizoparanoid position, and we can also hear it in the language. I mean, if someone says you never or you always, I mean, as if time doesn't matter, it's like continuous time. You never or you always do this and you do that, then it's a schizoparanoid position. One has to be wrong, the other has to be right. One is the devil, the other is an angel.
Right. The
And
victim.
The victim,
yes.
exactly, and the
What
aggressor.
did you do?
Yeah.
Why did you do
You
this?
do that to me. It's not with
Right.
me. Like, it's not something
Right.
that I was also part of. You did that to me,
Right.
and so you're terrible.
And you had intent. It's not
Right.
you weren't acting out of your own shit and insecurity and stuff. No, you were wrong. Okay, I
Yeah.
was wrong.
Yeah. And like you said, you had intent. You did that intentionally to...
No, I didn't.
No, but you did. Okay. What do we do with that? Like a healthier way to solve these kind of splits and, this kind of like a bad energy thing.
Okay.
Would be to somehow put them together. Think about the yin and yang symbol. There's black in every white and there's white in every black.
Right.
Basically, the depressive position, which is what Klein calls the healthier position.
The depressive. It
Depressive, yeah, it sounds
negative.
It sounds negative, but in this kind of, in this context, it's healthy because basically, why are we depressed? We're depressed, first of all, because we see that there is no such thing as pure goodness. So the person I thought who was pure is my guardian angel. He came to save me. Okay, I can see that there are faults there. So at first I was angry because I thought he was good and, he lied to me. I was in the schizoparanoid position. Now I'm in the depressive position. I say, okay, he's also good. He's good and bad, so I can take his good parts. His good parts can be with me, and I have to be aware that he has bad parts. That's depressing because I thought he was all good. But
this is life.
This is life. What can you do? So life is really in the depressive position. It's also depressive because you realize that when you were in the schizoparanoid position and you attacked that person, you were also attacking their goodness. So you also feel guilty for that, and you feel like, wow, I almost destroyed the person that matters, that is so good to me at times, So you're depressed about them, about the world, about yourself, but it's not, like full-blown clinical depression. It's just
Right.
like an existential depression because life is not perfect,
But maybe now, for the first time in her life, she has a role model of a strong female warrior that is also in control and serves some greater purpose, and she's moral. Of course, I'm talking about Brienne.
Mm-hmm.
You can see that she looks up to Brienne in some way, and so they're very similar in that they're very strong, but they're very different in the way that they use their force and how they view the world. Like Brienne is so trusting, and Arya is the opposite. So maybe that role model will help her, I don't know, along the way to better deal with the world.
With Arya, we can see that it's not like in relationships where you attribute ill intent to the other person. I mean, there is ill intent coming her way. People are in fact trying to kill her.
Right.
It's like they say, just the fact that you're paranoid doesn't mean that you're not being chased after. So
Right.
that's Arya, right?
Right.
I mean, in that sense. But not all people are like that. Many people are being chased after, but they don't have this kind of worldview, of this kind of schizoparanoid worldview.
And where do you think that Arya is heading with that state of mind?
We can see that she's accumulating all kinds of experiences which make her see that life is not black and white as she thinks it is.
For example?
For example, well, on her way to Winterfell, she encounters the Lannister soldiers.
Right,
and
right,
then,
right.
you know, there's all kind of tension. She gets off the horse, will she kill them all, and this and that. But she sits with them, and she sees that they're family men, and they're very kind to her, and they didn't really want to fight that war, because most
Okay.
soldiers, you know, it's not their...
Okay, so...
so she sees
Right.
that they're good and bad together, right? You
and
know?
she doesn't kill them?
And she doesn't kill them because...
Even though they're her enemies?
Yes, exactly. And
Okay, so she's getting better?
yeah, there's a shift there that's beginning, you know, to happen. She's maturing also as a person, but you know, she's accumulating many experiences. And then when she reaches Sansa, at first she's very, you know, like Sansa
Right,
is one
she
of
is
them,
one.
you know.
Right.
but
You had ill intent
exactly
when you wrote that.
Exactly, you wrote that letter. Of course, you did that. You know, not taking into account that she was a child and coerced to do
Right.
it. And
Right, because she had experiences and she reacted differently, then Sansa must have. If she didn't do the same thing, then she must be one of them.
exactly,
Evil.
exactly, yeah, exactly. It's like she can't mentalize someone thinking otherwise than her. I mean,
Right.
differently. You know,
Right.
everyone should have acted the same way.
Right, but then
But then at one point, we don't see how it happens, but we know that they, you know, they patch things up. So there is this kind of understanding that, I mean, Sansa is a different person. She acts differently. She does things differently. She's good and bad, and Arya is also good and bad. And they can be good and bad together. They don't have to be all good
Right.
together, all bad together. You know?
or maybe the fact that there is a greater evil, Littlefinger, maybe that helps her saying, okay, so if I hate him, if he killed my dad and killed her dad too, so maybe we're together and let's erase the differences between
Yeah.
the us. But also it's very different when she kills Littlefinger. Maybe it goes to your point about being depressive. We remember how she killed Lord Frey and all the Freys. She had practically an orgasmic experience. She was so happy. And with Littlefinger, she did it like business style, like I have to kill you.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
it.
Basically, in classical Freudian theory, then we have two kinds of instincts. We have the instinct like eros, which is sexuality and pleasure and libido and all kinds of,
Okay.
you know, wanting to go towards pleasure and avoiding pain.
Okay.
And we have the thanatos, which is like the death instinct. The drive for aggression is basically drive for annihilation of the self, of the other. Pleasure is connected to the life force, to the libido, to the eros, and things like that. Lacan, which was one of Freud's followers, he said that there is a point that there is too much pleasure. There's the excess pleasure, which he
Okay.
calls jouissance. And he says that excess pleasure is connected to the death instinct. Because it's like we eat out of a life force, right?
But then we eat too much?
And then we eat too much. Eating too much, binging, and, you know, feeling all stuffed and not able to move and feeling bad about yourself, that's related to the death instinct. So why do we say that some things are self-destructive, even if they can be really pleasurable
Right,
and
like
good?
drugs.
Like drugs, right? And even you know, people can use other things that feel good, like sex and eating and drinking and stuff like that.
But then there's too much of it.
Then too much of it, and then that's destructive. That's part of the death instinct.
Right. Okay, so you think that she's going more into this depressed position?
Yeah.
And you would encourage that process?
Yeah, I would encourage, I would challenge her thinking, her black and white thinking, you know. Are they all bad? Are they, you know, this is what she's doing naturally. It's just, you know, part of her process.
Oh, speaking of personal processes, like
Right.
the other day...
Okay. So our time is up now. And we can, I remember that you said process. We can talk about it the next time.
Okay.
Okay.
You remember?
Yeah, great.
You don't want to write it down?
No, I remember. דווקא אתה
ייבוש כזה, סרטים, הרגת אותי עכשיו. Okay, so thank you for watching. Thank you, Noga. We will see you again. If you enjoyed our video, then please click like and subscribe if you want to get all our videos with Noga, with Itama, with all kinds of stuff. And if you become a patron, you'll get a whole lot of other videos breaking down the Bible. All kinds of videos about history and politics and some personal shit. So we'll see you there. Thanks for watching. Bye, everybody.
Bye.